no Draven in the finals of Nanjing, and our experiences at our Spiritforged pre-Rift events. All that and more on this week's episode of The Winning Point.
You can tell this guy thinks that the countdown matters, because that was drawn out. That was like season 1 right there. That was season 1 countdown.
Oh, are we in season 2 now? Is it by set? Is it so now it's season 2?
Was that not obvious?
That was a biblically accurate countdown is what that was. It looks like the hot mess full of eyes instead of a humanoid with wings.
Speaking of hot messes full of eyes, welcome to The Winning Point, season 2, episode 1. No, okay, we're not doing that. Oh no, actually, this would be season 2, episode 0, because today is the day.
what is the just for posterity? 34. Thank you. There we go. Episode 34.
Episode 34, aka season 2, episode 0. Can we get all the episode 0 truthers in the comment section right now? We are here, The Winning Point. I am Blevins. Next to me is Casanova, and all the way over there is Charmer. What's up, friends?
Not much. It's good. We are approaching launch at very quick velocity, and in fact, when you're listening to this, I mean, you can pretty much
be in the midst of opening packs as you're
you'll be ripping some packs. This is a lo-fi podcast to rip packs to. There you go. I'm very excited for the game to fully be out. Spiritforged at least to fully be out. And then after this, I'm just going to be getting ready to ship off to Bologna. Play a little Rifty out in Bologna. This can be fun.
Yeah, it struck me today that that's next week. For some reason, I just thought that there was more time. There's not. There's just not. And I have I got a lot of games of Lucian to play before I actually need to care about if I win or not.
I'm very happy to hear that, because I need to play a lot of games, period, because I don't know what I want to play in Vegas yet. I'm still undecided. And I am not going to Bologna, but I'm going to be commentating for a different card game on that same weekend, so that's going to eat into my playtest time, right? Like, I'm short a weekend the same way everyone for Bologna is, except for you guys all still get to play the game at Bologna and like refine anything that you were considering if you were going to both. I believe some folks plan on at least being present at both. So I will play some games with you, Blev. That's my long-winded way of saying we need to jam some games, because I'm undecided.
I, for what it's worth, I have not been holding out games on anyone. I have just not been able to play them, period, with the exception of like I've played a couple of random games against random opponents on TCG Arena. So shout outs to the I think one person who didn't leave in the middle of game 1 of games. So that was great. But we actually have a decent amount of stuff to talk about. We're going to be talking about our pre-Rift experiences in a bit. We're going to be talking about Nanjing in a bit, but before that, I wanted to talk about this is a little something that kind of flew under the radar in the big rules update, but this is an update for best of 1 rules. And this says starting February 9th, Riftbound will apply new rules to best of 1 tournaments by introducing a sideboard adjustment mechanism. After revealing legends and determining battlefield and turn order, players may adjust their sideboards. So obviously we are all familiar with this mechanic from Flesh and Blood, and my initial reactions are, I mean, this almost makes best of 1 playable to me. Like I'm in on this.
I think it's just a really good change for best of 1, especially if you're running like a competitive tournament that involves any amount of best of 1, right? Like, when I'm going to my Nexus nights and playing casually, like this doesn't really matter. Like, this doesn't need to happen. I don't dislike it. Like, it's fine. Like, that's kind of neat. Like, matchups that maybe would have been like less fun to play. Say you have to play against like Voltron Ornn in best of 1 and all of your gear destructions in the sideboard, and you're playing best of 1. Like, you're not going to have as much fun as like if you were able to sideboard and have a little bit of counterplay available. And it's like they can too, right? They can counter, like they can make sure that they've got whatever sideboard stuff that they'd have. And I think that'll like make some strategies that maybe would have been annoying for players in best of one a lot more fun. I think maybe set one Aurora is a great example. You probably weren't made boarding Gear Destruction. You go play best of one at your local, and then you just like have no answer if they find Aurora, and it feels like you're playing Casino. Feels like you're, it makes the game feel worse than it really should be. So this is like positive for that as well. But mostly so, I mean, just for competitive integrity of playing, if you do need to have best of ones for a competitive event, this is incredible. Not gonna advocate for us ever having best of one of like big events, but in China, this was a real problem. All of the city challenges were best of one until top 8. So this is a way to make those feel like more competitive, which I think is just a great change or a great adjustment.
I will say that what I liked most about the rules, again, somebody coming from Flesh and Blood, I was already accustomed to this, but I appreciate that you get to see not just the legend, but also the battlefield. And I think that the reason that that is really important is because there are certain scenarios where you have a switchboard, right? And we kind of see that even occurring now with the best of 3, but being able to also plan for that with best of 1, and also being able to essentially take your best of 3 deck, and even if you want to do the switchboard thing, show up at a best of 1 night and not have to make, a smattering of changes to make it worthwhile or whatever, I think is really nice. So I just appreciate that it's not one of those scenarios, because if you're new to best of 1 stuff, especially like this with the pre-sideboard, what you don't want is a scenario where, yes, they flip a Teemo, for example, right? And you're now trying to decide like, okay, well, is this one going to be one that even cares about hidden? Or is this just, kind of like a gotcha in disguise? And then because if you see Teemo and say Bandle Tree, you're like, okay, it's maybe a hidden Teemo, et cetera. So I think that part is really relevant, and I was very happy to see that they did that.
Yeah, I agree with everything that has been said. I will also add, I don't always want to. I sometimes find myself, and it's happening more and more as I'm getting older. I find myself where I want to play in a like kind of competitive setting, but I don't want the full blown. I don't want to bite off the whole, take a huge bite. Like if I'm playing, like my next, my pre-rift was best of 3, and that was fun. We got to play a lot of games. I would have been perfectly content if it was best of 1, just from a time perspective, especially when these things are starting at like 6 or 7 o'clock. I'm old, man. But like for skirmish, I think that these rules, like depending on what time your skirmish is at, the size, etc., like I think that this fits the format for skirmish quite well. Like that's, I think, as high of an event in terms of competitiveness that I would like to see it at least in the current structure of what we have. Like no shot I want to see this at an RQ. Like give me best of 3. Like for like big events, give me best of 3. But yeah, for skirmish, I think that's fine. I think for the city challenges, is like, especially like they have been positioned as this is best of 1. Like you're going into this event knowing it's best of 1, and like it's been best of 1 the whole time. I'm happy for that. Like give best of 1 a bit more legs, give like us a reason to look at it, and maybe it does create a little bit of a slightly different meta. I don't know. I mean, maybe there's some decks that shine a bit more, given that maybe a game 1 power, but not necessarily able to perform as good in best of 3. I don't know.
I think this actually, if anything, will homogenize it more to make it closer to the best of 3 meta, right? Like before we had full spell Victor and Orns like finding wins at some of these city challenges, because like their game 1 is
you're not
so
always
good.
running Bryn here 3x.
You just don't have the tech to kind of deal with it in the main. And so people would then like adjust to that and try and figure it out. But realistically, like by letting you pre-board, it'll probably homogenize it, which is, you could argue whether that's a good or a bad thing, but I do think that just in general, it's going to feel like a more competitive format. And I actually think you bring up skirmish is kind of cool. Like personally, I don't want to have my like buy on the line with a best of 1 tournament, but the 2 skirmishes I played went far too long. I didn't want to spend 8 hours to go win the bye. Now if prizing is better, then I do want it to be best of 3, and I'll go play 8 hours. Like if the shop wants to make it like a skirmish that's also a 1K or something, like yeah, hell yeah, give me and I'll play 8 hours. But it was like 8 hours for 3 packs and a buy is like okay, I would have played more of them and played best of 1, even though maybe I'd win consistently less if I play best of 1. Like I'll play more little 3-hour events on my weekends and just have a lot of fun doing that versus like committing the 8 hours. So I think there is that kind of cool balance where if a store just wants to do the skirmish kit and maybe do pack per win, then make it best of 1 instead of doing the full like shebang. Like do best of 1 cut to top 8, whatever. You can even do best of 3 top 8. Just do something to change it up to have the time still feel good, because it's this weird thing where it's like I'm not complaining about going and getting to play games. I love playing games, but sometimes 8 hours is a little too long when it's not like a high stakes big tournament to get done. Sometimes that's a little much.
I'll out myself. I planned on going to minimum 1, but in reality 2 other skirmishes to try to get a second buy and just play. But I'm like, I just like thinking about being there for 8 to 10 hours. It's not me anymore, man. Like I don't want to do it. And I know there's a lot of players, like especially newer players, and even just people who are old guys like me. Like I just, I'm fine going to a bigger event, like you said, like a bigger, like okay, I'm committing the time here, but like a skirmish to me feels like a 3/4 of a day at a local shop. Like I'll O2 drop and be fine and go back home, or I'll play the whole time and maybe 6 hours I can do. But yeah, 8 to 10.
I got that dog in me for a win a box or a case tournament or a 1K still, but
yeah, exactly. Like I really wanted that first buy, and then I lost entirely all motivation to play after I got it. So let us know what you think. I think I have not seen anyone say anything bad about these, because I think it's just all upside, but maybe there's the Aurora best of 1 players that are in shambles right now. I don't know. But speaking of shambles, are Draven players potentially in shambles now? Nanjing, no Draven in the finals. Dead deck, right? Like
dead is horrible. Draven's bad, guys.
We went from needs to be banned, like the game is fundamentally flawed, to deck's not even in the finals.
Yeah, I mean, sure, it wasn't in the finals, but it was still very well represented. I know that hyperbole and exaggeration and all of those things are the great clickbait content, guys. So you heard it here first. Draven unplayable.
Draven deck dead.
But jokes aside, I will say this.
There's your thumbnail.
The meta, I think, was actually very impressive to me, because I think with Just Origins we saw a little bit of stagnation as far as how it evolved over time. When you look at the Chinese community, we saw Kaisa, we saw Yi, and yes, those decks iterated. They tried to figure out the mirror, they tried to figure out each other, but it was just like a 2-horse race. And now we're seeing a lot more diversity, and I thought that it was going to homogenize as it went, and I'm very happy to be wrong. In this instance, we've seen, I think, more diversity, and I'm also just very excited to see more players really try to go underneath Draven, right? For the Draven mirrors, we've been seeing almost like this greedification of the deck. We've seen Kaisa starting to pack the singularities, right? They're also going a little bit slower, a little bit greedier, and so it makes sense that decks like Annie or an Azir that can go underneath or whatever suddenly started to do well. I think that that's a good sign overall for how much depth we potentially have in the meta game, because it is still fairly new. And I'm really looking forward to seeing how it evolves even further as we get our release.
Yeah. It's really funny because it kind of went both ways, because you mentioned like trying to get underneath the greedy Dravens, and Kaisa definitely went above. The best performing Kaisa was triple progress day, like just playing Get Excited.
You want to draw cards? Yeah. No, I draw cards.
It was like the greediest Kaisa list ever, but also in that same vein, it it was really cool how it was using, Get Excited in the progress days to make sure that it could have time warp and ways to actually deal with Aurelia, because that's the matchup that's supposed to be like 0% for Kai'Sa. And we actually saw this player like beat an Aurelia on stream, which was really nice to watch that kind of setup. And then what's funny is, because you talk about going under, and for Azir, absolutely, like this is a much faster deck than Draven. And Annie, you would think so, but this Annie deck is actually like taller than the Draven as far as how it's played, right? It is like Pharaoh's Forerunner, it's playing its own Draven Conquerors. The only thing it does to get under, it's so funny, is it plays the deck hands. So it'll play the deck hand to get that first point, just so that it has the point tempo. And then it's just playing out a bunch of big units, big statted units, and using the Annie legend as God intended, as just 2 energy to like protect the thing that you just put on the board. Like it is just using it it is the most fair Annie deck you have ever witnessed in your entire life. It's like tap out Pharaoh's Forerunner on the battlefield. Yeah. Okay, Pharaoh's Forerunner, I guess we'll let that die. Okay, now I'm going to play Mind Splitter and a Draven on the battlefield over these 2 turns. And now you swing in. Okay, I'll just flash that back. And now on my turn, when I have runes again, now we'll play the game, right? Now we'll actually do something.
Right.
It's just completely like playing big stuff and then using pushes and flashes. I mean, Flash is just the most OP card in that deck, even more so than any other Annie deck beforehand, because it's just like, here's the biggest unit ever, and this is how I'll defend it.
Yeah, well, it's Uno, Annie. You see that you have 6 runes in play. You play the 6 in your hand. You see you have 4 runes in play. You play the 4 in your hand, and then you get to untap 2, and then you play one of the 2s in your hand. It's easy. It's very simple. It's like Uno. You play the card that you see in the middle. It's very simple.
Going even a little bit further, the reason that I was thinking of it still is go under. You're absolutely right. It doesn't really truly go under outside of the point tempo, but what I kind of wrapped my head around when I was looking at like the thought process here is I think that for whatever reason, maybe it's because everybody loves drawing cards in card games, but I think people just focused and kind of tunneled visioned too much on Draven's draw effect. And the Annie deck is kind of like, what if I played Draven, but instead of every time I conquer, I draw a card, I just always have an extra card that says, here's 2 energy, right? So like I'm down a card, but it's for energy. And it turns out that's fine, because having 5 more cards over the course of a game doesn't matter if you can only play the same number of cards as me every turn, but also I can play more than you every turn because I have 2 extra runes essentially. And 2 is so pivotal in these red and purple decks because all of the real key things you want are like exactly 2 or less, whether it's the rebukes or the fighter flights, or even if you wanted to like hard cast a switcheroo or whatever, like 2 is just perfect. So it's great.
It is really good. I also want to talk about the here we go. Here's the Annie deck. If you are watching on YouTube, which you should, if you're listening on another platform, make sure to hit sub on the YouTube, because we've got awesome graphics and beautiful faces, and also mine. The card that we were talking about probably the most during the co-stream was Rengar Gengar, like coming in clutch. I think we were memeing about it for a while, and then slowly but surely it was actually ended up being a very relevant and powerful card multiple times.
No, I love this card.
Very impressed with it.
I love this card. I think in Annie in particular, it gets a little bit of added effect of sometimes you can just develop it from the extra 2 runes that you got on your turn. So like if you're curving out, say you have 5 runes, you play a Draven, you get to untap 2. If your opponent ever gives you a window, you can just play a Rengar as well, right? So you're actually getting like this pseudo ramp from the Annie ability because he has reaction speed. But also in a purple meta, it's really nice to be able to still contest a battlefield after you've been fighter flighted or biggest overzealous fan pushing you back. I've seen Kai'Sa decks run this card. I've seen Dravens run it as like a potential mirror breaker. I think there was like a phase where I think a lot of people were really trying Rengar and ended up finding that it was often worse than just playing Ride the Wind. And that's where I think Annie has kind of changed it, where for a lot of decks, it probably is kind of just worse than playing Ride the Wind. But Annie having that added level of being able to kind of cheat out that Rengar even just at base ends up kind of giving it, a plus over Ride the Wind, especially in a deck like this that's not playing Vi. It's not playing the other things that you would really want to combo off with the Ride the Wind specifically. And as far as her combat tricks with the 2 runes, you mentioned Flash, Fight or Flight, Rebuke, Hard Bargain, Switcheroo all at 2. Ride the Wind's also at 2, but I don't know that Annie is necessarily looking to do the Ride the Wind play as much as she is looking to just keep an amass of might at base to be able to push back in. Not saying it couldn't fit here. I mean, surely Ride the Wind could fit in this deck. I don't think it would be bad, but I think that's kind of where that Rengar comes from in this build, whereas a lot of other builds have strayed away from him even after trying him a little bit.
Yeah, and I think we've seen the death of Cleave in a lot of the Draven decks, because it's like, yeah, you'd rather just be running Spinning Axe a lot of the time. And some I'd say probably there's definitely still Draven decks that are running it and maybe running multiple copies, and also the other repeat Cleave, the name of which I always forget.
Blood Rush.
Blood Rush.
Yeah,
Blood Rush. There we go. But those cards are quite bad against the pushes, the Fight or Flights, the Rebukes. Like you commit a card, they rebuke it. Now they've all of a sudden gotten a 2-for-1 on you. Whereas like Rengar plays quite well into, well, specifically Rebuke, which is usually the catch-all, right? Like Rebuke is like, okay, it's going to cost me the most, but it will stop virtually everything as long as I'm willing to pay the cost for it. And Rengar's like, yeah, you could rebuke me. I'm going to be played again, or I'm going to be played after you rebuke my unit, or after you Fight or Flight my unit. Like, it's a thing that you can react to one of these plays that usually are the, okay, this was the purple deck's last line of defense. This was like, okay, I tried to do this tit for tat before. I'm gonna end it now, and we'll start again after I play this rebuke. And they go, yeah, I'm gonna Rengar you, and they just, there's not much, like, unless you're expecting it, and even if you are, a lot of times you just can't. It's another line of attack that you can't really play too well around. So I'm very impressed with Rengar, but I'm definitely not going to be playing it in my Lucian deck. So if you're playing against me in Bologna, no need to play around it. 0% chance I'm playing it. So just putting that out there. I have also no other secret crazy and probably bad tech in that deck either. It's Yone. What? Anyway, the other, we talked a lot about this Annie deck. The other deck that was in the finals, I believe this is the first top 8. Certainly the first finals was the Azir deck. Yeah, first top 8. We saw it in top 16, I think, in a previous week.
Its highest placement with 18th, I believe, prior to this.
18th. Okay, so top 32 before, but even so, did really well here. I think again was one of these decks that we saw attacking the meta in a different way, kind of going under. I mean, we saw some of the games with this Azir deck where you look at it and it's like, wow, I said it on the coach. I'm like, wait, am I going to sleeve up Azir now? Like, it looks so good. Yeah. And then 2 turns later, when I had no cards and handed all of the Sand Soldiers were dead, it was just a bunch of equipment. I'm like, I'm definitely not doing that. But we also saw games where it did very well. Like this is a very interesting deck.
So I think it was actually on night 1 of the co-stream, but I remember mentioning at some point to you, Cass, specifically, that like I wondered if Eye of the Herald was going to be popping up as like a potential meta thing, just because it just spits out might. It's not like a lot of might, but over the course of turns, it really does start to add up. And when you're talking about like overzealous fan and things like that, and you're, trying to make sure you have a body when you're pushing into something, even if they get rid of your big thing, you still have a body. So if you've got the discipline or whatever, you can make the buff. So I was just very excited to see Eye of the Herald show up. I would not have predicted it being in Azir, but yeah. Oh, well, I mean, I would predict it to be in Azir. I guess what I meant to say is I would not have predicted the Azir to be the deck to do well with it. I thought it might be like a Victor or something, but man, it did look so good and so fun. And I had the same thought. I'm not gonna lie, Blevins. I was like, am I gonna sleeve up Azir?
Yeah, I think
maybe
on the Eye of the Herald thing, I actually think that the only my opinion is the only deck that can actually make it work is Azir, because like for other decks, the opportunity cost of it just being this like one energy, like the impact of it on its own is often not going to be enough. Unless your deck has like a ton of card draw, and yellow currently doesn't have like a ton of decks that are at the top of the meta that like are able to just like draw enough cards. Maybe there's a world that like Rek'Sai could try and play this, right? In the same idea as like what you're saying, just generating value. You just need like the card draw. You need to be able to play this and then still just have enough resources. And the reason Azir can kind of play it is, well, it's not just a 1 energy gear that comes down. It comes with the Sand Soldier as a turn 1 play where you're getting, a 2-drop with it, a 2-drop worth of might with it, right? This Weapon Master Sand Soldier coming down. So it gets a lot of value in that sense. And I do think it was impressive. And things like Death Grip really enable it because exactly as you're saying, right? It leaves a body there. So you push something away and now you Death Grip the thing that got pushed and give all the might to the recruit. And now the recruit can actually still win the fight, right? So there's really cool play lines that you get to do with Eye of the Herald, leaving that body there. And then later on in the game, just by those bodies existing, not only are you accruing some might, as you're mentioning, but because this deck also plays this critical mass of gear, those single might units are not really just single might units. They're vessels to then, dump your runes and re-equip a bunch of these gear and push in. Especially when you've got something like Brutalizer that you're trying to recur that buff over and over again. So in that vein, I totally agree with you, but I do think Azir is the only deck that can really like leverage that power that you're wanting to get out of it, at least right now in the current meta. And we saw this, right? It does the thing. That is what Azir does, right? It does basically the same thing every game where it just develops a ton of might very quickly that's hard to contend with. And then if you have no answer, it will just drop a rise and end the game. And we saw this over and over again in these matches. And when it couldn't win in that first like kind of burst, it'd run out of steam. And then we'd be in the spot where it really needed to find a specific out and it couldn't get there. The finals, of course, spoiler alert, 2-0 for Annie, not really any struggles in any of the games. But we also saw Azir dominate some other decks earlier on in the day, right? Where we're just like, they couldn't get anything done. And Azir just has a million things on board. He beat a Rat Ezreal. They didn't find Rat. And then it was just like, the game's just over. Like Azir has just run over this deck and there was nothing that they could do about it. So I think this deck has a lot of that value where it is just going to kind of do this thing over and over again. And it's kind of down to your opponent to be able to beat it. And in that way, I think it's very similar to other aggressive decks from other card games. If we want to try and like compare it to aggro, this is like, while it has, in my opinion, not much in similarities to playing like a mono red aggro, in the way that it's like, if mono red's going to kill you, it's just going to kill you. And if Azir is, and you can't stop it, right? And Azir is kind of the same way where it's like, it's going to do this game plan. And if you can stop that game plan, then you're fine. And if you can't stop that game plan, you're just going to lose. Like it's going to have too much might for you to deal with.
I can hear in the future Marshall screaming at the screen right now that you're not bringing up Garen as one of the users of the token from Eye of the Herald.
You think because you can draw more? That's true, because now it makes another unit there. So now when you conquer with 4, you can draw. Yeah, there you go, everybody. Garen, that's the one.
Garen broke it.
Yeah, Garen gets it done there.
Garen and Harold, the 1987 classic sitcom starring John Leguizamo for some reason. Don't know why that was the actor that came to mind, but yeah, I mean, really interesting decks. I mean, I didn't predict it. I hoped that it would happen, that we would see the meta not be like Draven versus Kai'Sa or Draven versus one other deck. It was going to be Draven versus World, and we saw World win. So I'm big thumbs up to World. I think it also partially, the reason that we're seeing more decks, more different decks rather, is I think partially the metal cards. Like the first Houston really blew it open in terms of like, these metal cards are actually quite sought after and they're worth playing for. And also, at least for some people, myself included, it is worth your entire tournament just dedicating to playing this sub tournament within the tournament, which is for a metal card. I don't know if that has impacted China as much, but it certainly seems like there's more like brewing and innovation.
I would say definitely this cycle, right? So last cycle, there were no metal cards for the regional opens. Not until the national open did they have metal cards. And so this time around, they have metal cards, which is why I think it is a huge reason why we're not just seeing the Kai'Sa Yi innovation. And instead, we've seen a lot of other decks crop up. And I think that has opened people's eyes, though, in the sense that, you can still win with this other stuff. It's not just Draven. And let's take a look at some of the breakdowns from the weekend of what made, top 64, 32, etc. Like, it's still pretty heavily like top skewed towards what the quote unquote best decks are, right? Draven, Kai'Sa,
and
Aurelia at the top, and then Victor show up. But it's only 2 copies of Victor, let's be clear, right?
It's like, always there though.
It's always hanging out. But like, then you have some other decks that are, less represented or considered not so good that are still making it. Like Set came out in the woodwork for this one. We still had another Sivir copy. I assume it was Aurora, even though Randy kind of popped off on the previous week with that really cool like Miracle Sivir dig through the whole deck.
Yeah, but you're not picking that up after seeing it 1 week before.
For 1 week,
you are grinding.
It would be pretty tough, right? And then from there, we had the Azir and the Lucian as one-ofs. And in the top 64, there was like 1 Fiora, 1 Ezreal, 1 Yi, 1 Jax, 1 Lux, 1 Rek'Sai, 1 Ornn. Like all this kind of, these one-ofs. So people are kind of breaking through on their brew that they're trying to win the best of. But at the end of the day, like, we are in a meta that is still kind of a triangle meta with Draven, Kai'Sa, and Aurelia. It just means that there are other things that while you're going for your best of, or maybe you have another angle to target, some of these other decks are still good enough, right? They're still strong enough to push forward. And we see that with our final, right? These were very underrepresented decks that made it to the final in Annie and Azir.
Shout out to Annie getting a victory for the very underrepresented color combo of red purple.
Yeah, exactly. Nobody's playing that.
No one's playing that. So I think that's a wrap on our second season of the Chinese regionals, Chinese regional opens rather, which is cool to see. It definitely a different vibe, I think, from the first season, which I'm quite happy with. So I don't know the date off the top of my head, but we do have a date confirmed at some point. I think it's in March it's sometime at the end of March for the National Open. So that will be a fun one to see how what we see in Bologna and Vegas, how that impacts the Chinese meta as we come back. But really cool stuff. Let us know what you think about the competitive scene. We're going to shift gears back towards Spiritforged release in the West here, because we all got to play some pre-Rift events, and I hope you at home listening did as well. And I hope that you listened to not only our regular episode, but Cass's bonus episode, because of course Riot decided to drop a ton of extra information on us the day after we record. So I wonder what they're gonna reveil tomorrow.
How many more bonus episodes must I do?
Dave invitational cards, maybe. I don't know. Cass, how did your pre-Rifts go?
My pre-Rift was fun. I only got to play one. This was in between co-streams. I did a co-stream. I slept for like 4 hours. I went and did this, and then I did another co-stream. And that was painful, but it was fun, and I had a really good time. I opened Dookie. I think the coolest thing I opened was this Azir. You'll see there's a picture currently on the for the YouTube that has the deck I ended up building. But I opened an alt art green Azir, was the only hit. It was the only like epic plus thing in my deck. And then when it came to the actual competing part of it, I didn't open a single punch first. I think this has been a card that we've talked a lot about when it comes to pre-Rift. And anyone who's experienced pre-Rift has probably noticed that, wow, punch first is a hell of a card in this format.
Good card.
Especially because it's kind of hard to play around really anything a lot of the time when it comes to limited, especially if you don't know the set. So I think people are getting blown out left and right by punch first. I didn't open a single copy, and I was trying to figure out how to build this deck because I started with the Ezreal Precon, which I think is not one of the better ones when it comes to card quality as a whole. And I do think his legend ability is really bad in limited specifically, because it's hard to fulfill the condition in limited like a lot of the time. And instead, if you played no legend, you draw one card at the start of the game, which is maybe equal to the amount of times that you would activate Ezreal. So I was like, oh, okay, well, I think this is not going to get played, and I'm going to have to find what I can do with my pool. From there, I found an Aurelia, and I was like, okay, well, I can at least use the purple cards from my Ezreal thing and maybe build an Aurelia deck. And then I recognized that I had not pulled a single positive spell that targets. So no buffs, no anything like that in my entire pool, right? That goes with the no punch first, but also no blood rushes, no feral spirits, none of those. And I was like, okay, so this seems like unplayable, right? And then I found this green Jax. And I said, well, what if I champ zone green Jax and I turned all of my random bad one cost equipment into targeted buff spells? And so that's what the deck did, and that's what I built. And I was like, this is probably going to be really bad. Let's see if I can get some wins. But in a best of 3 event, I went 3-0 with going 6-2 in games. And a lot of it, the strategy worked. I think the Jax, like being able to use these spells was cool. People weren't playing around the specific like Jax ranges that I could have, especially with like Brutalizer. I think that card was a really big MVP. The tank keyword actually kind of helped out a little bit. I'd push in with like a treasure hunter and a big unit, and then they'd look for the trade, and I would just drop the Doran's shield on the treasure hunter and get a very favorable trade. But really, I just kind of won off of having some big bombs. I think bombs are really still very good in any limited format for any card game you ever play, and I think it's no different here. I had Master Bingwen, or as I like to call him, Master Bing Chilling. He had Weapon Master, so he's just a big guy with Weapon Master. He's the 6/6 or 6 energy, 6 might with Weapon Master. So he gets to just come in, equip one of those weapons I played earlier in the game, get ready to buy Aurelia, and send in. Is very strong. I had a Beast Below that has some really cool play lines as well.
Card is insane.
It's gas in this mode. I had a Gearhead, so all this gear late in the game, I could just play him, and even though I played 0 blue runes, he still has Accelerate in Aurelia, because I just equip him and then I make him ready. So just equip all this stuff. I had him at like 13 might at some point in one of the games, which was really nice. And then the green Azir, of course. There was a lot of really cool play lines. I want to, because I want to hand off to you guys for your story times as well, but I want to tell the 2 like most like fun lines I think I had out of this deck list were 2 of like game winning lines. And one of them was I had this like 13 might Gearhead, and I had to conquer one side, but I couldn't like get him there and then pivot. So I conquer one side with the Gearhead with all the equipments, and then they're holding with a huge unit at the other battlefield. I play the Beast Below, and I bounce the Gearhead to drop all of the equipment and bounce their guy, and then equip all the equipment onto the Beast Below and push him into the other side. And I was like, oh, that's really cool. Like 4 equipment, burn all my runes, like whatever. Awesome. Conquer both sides. The other one was my opponent had just wiped my entire board at 7 points, and I'm at 6. And I have 12 runes, nothing on the board at all except for a Brutalizer. And I play Green Azir for 6, equip the Brutalizer and ready it, and conquer the empty battlefield. On the other battlefield, they have 10 might. So this is a 9 might Azir now, empty battlefield. Then I ready Aurelia because of the conquer, play a 2-drop, swap it, then play another gear. I have a World Atlas for +2. Use a gold to equip the World Atlas to make it 11. Ready the Azir, move it in, and conquer. So 12 runes, all from hand. Conquer 2 battlefields, beating a 10 might hold. I was like, limited, by the way. You do some powerful stuff in limited. Actually, you do some really cool stuff, and yeah, it was just so much fun. I think some other like notable cards for me was like Fae Porter, helping me play around Yone. That card was giving me trouble because I was playing Green Jax as my chosen champion. So my chosen champion kind of getting killed by Yone was really troublesome. But Fae Porter was like, okay, I can move stuff around and pivot stuff around altogether just at the cost of runes. So I don't have to leave anything at base, and I could look for some good holds. I think Disarming Rake, because so many people were playing gear, even though it's not like that efficient, it felt really good to kill people's gear and just get a body on the board. And then I also had Spirit Wheel, and I think in limited, any kind of source of card draw can be really nice, and especially when I'm playing these really bad 1-cost gear so that I have any form of combat tricks. This was a way to turn them into actually good cards to then like pair with them later in the game, and I think that was really fun. But yeah, it was a really cool experience. I feel like I always wanted to yap with people about the ideas behind these decks, because this deck if you just look at it at face value, it looks like a pile of garbage, and yet it was able to do some really cool explosive things because it had 3 different colors, and it was you know, a chosen champion that could never be a chosen champion for the legend that you're actually playing. And I think that just is what makes the format so fun and unique. And yeah, I had a blast. Now I'm done yapping.
Okay.
Charmer, how was your experience?
Well, I just have one last thing to call out about your deck. Well, rather the picture is that how are you not using a Turn 'em Sideways playmat, which you can find and get for yourself right now at the website? That's just a fail right there, Cal.
Shop.turnemsideways.gg. You can't figure out the website. Can't. All right,
Nope.
There we go.
Not going to.
I used a flashy Victor playmat and did very well. So I got to play in 2, and the first one went great. The second one was not as great, and it's a tale of 2 different pools. So first pool was outstanding. I opened Lucian as my like mini deck, so already off to a good start.
Yeah.
You got the Yone. But then also in the packs, I opened both Orange Sivir and her signature spell on the Hunt. I opened 7 total pieces of gear, including a Trinity Force, 2 Punch Firsts, had 2 Gem Jammers to move stuff around, had a Piercing Light. Again, yay, go Lucian doing Lucian things. I felt like I was playing constructed against limited people, and I felt kind of bad for it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if you didn't go undefeated, you're off the pod.
That was my
I went very undefeated with that. So at both of my events, the person to the right of me opened an overnumbered. The first at that event, somebody opened a signature. The second event, it was just a regular overnumbered. But I can't be mad because even with the prize packs across the 2 events, I still opened like 20 packs or less than that, so less than a box. And I got 4 alt arts, an alt art rune, and 4 epics. So like that's
really good.
That's better than a box at discount.
Yeah.
And that's not knowing I saved 1 pack to open, by the way. My second event, I got Ezreal. Ezreal was difficult. I don't necessarily think that Ezreal is bad and limited, but I think that the biggest issue was I was really struggling with might. I think that if you don't get some of the better gear in the purple and blue colors, like I did not have the Atlas, I did not have Boots of Swiftness, I did not have anything that was a lot of might. It was more like the small equipment, the Dorans, etc. So my units were struggling to keep up. And I found that the way my games usually went is I would jump out into a lead and I'd have a pretty good hold position. But over the course of the game, so many other decks had quality gear. And I was just like losing to attrition, specifically green decks with like Guardians, Angels, and things like that. So that time I only went 1 and 2, but I still had a good time. My prize pack just now has just an Irelia and a Sivir, no epics, nothing flashy, but yeah, it was fun. I learned a lot, I think, the second time around, just because it forced me into some positions that were very difficult to navigate that I don't think that I would have been in if I was not playing limited. And I always say that I enjoy playing limited the most, and it's partially because of these moments, because I think I learn more about the game when I'm not just kind of putting reps in on one deck over and over and over again, right? Like when I'm forced out of my comfort zone, when I'm playing with cards that I didn't consider, etc. You guys were talking about the Beast, right? That card's Beast outstanding. At least in limited, Beast Below was the only thing that I was looking forward to in that Ezreal list most of the time. It was like I play my champion and he, is annoying and never dies, and then I just try to hold until I can get Beast, and then I might have a shot. So there's just a lot of those like little things that just would not have come up And I didn't feel him the first time because, like I said, I really felt like I was playing constructed
Oh yeah,
against other limited players.
you're pulling crazy. What the?
Yeah. But yeah, I'm overall still very excited for the set. And this, if anything, piqued me a little bit further because of the experience.
Yeah. I also opened Ezreal for my pre-riff. I only did one this go around. I did keep a rough count of how many cards I drew with Ezreal to see if it would have been. I'm like, my gut says I should probably just not run the Ezreal and I will overall draw more cards, but I'm going to play him because A, I don't care, and B, I just want to see. And he averaged about 1-ish cards a game. So like he was maybe marginally better overall throughout the course of the event. I did end up playing 4 rounds of best of 3 at an event that started at 6:30, which is again goes to my point of it was really late
Long
when we finished, but it was a long pre-rip, but it was fun. Yeah, my deck also felt like a pile of garbage, but I opened an alt art blue Ezreal to go with my other Ezreal. I ran neither as my chosen champion. I instead ran red Draven as my chosen champion because
that's a pretty good chosen champion.
That's my prerogative. I ran zero Angie runes, and he would only get pumped if he fed himself. I also had 3 Plunder Poros in my deck as well. So I was generating a lot of gold. I had 3 Plunder Poros and a card sharp as well. Plus a couple of the spell that deals 3 and gives you a gold.
Wages.
So I had a lot.
Wages. It's like Mind Bluff because I played 0 blue and I had 3 Plunder Poro, 2 Wages of Pain. You know,
exactly.
We'll make some gold, and I never had any issues. Never had a single issue.
I also never had issues. Anytime I wanted to pay for Draven, I was able to. So that was really good. I won. I went 3-1. The deck I lost to was actually really sick. Really good player in my area. He was actually the only person I lost to at the skirmish that I played. But I ended up winning that skirmish. He was playing no legend and chosen champion Fizz, which already is scary. Had a ton of spells. Including the man, I'm forgetting every Bushwhack. Is that the card?
Red
Bushwhack.
Card where your units enter ready.
Yeah, really crazy.
That you can hide.
With Bushwhack, play the Fizz, get a spell, and then he had it worked out in his favor because I had the battlefield that when you conquer, you can pay 1 to bounce the thing that conquered and make a sand soldier, which was good for my deck because I had a lot of come to play effects. Even better for the person running chosen champion Fizz, who also ran it. So 2 of the 3 games had that battlefield for them. So he was like actually comboing off with the Fizz. Like every turn was just able to reanimate a spell. And I'm like, I don't know how I took a game off of this deck. It was so sweet. Also had Spinning Axe and a bunch of other gear. My deck had 1 gear. It was literally the Doran's Ring. And it definitely did not help me to only have the 1 gear. There were a card that I was playing that I played main deck originally was not so fast. Hard Bargain. I was running Hard Bargain. I'm like, oh, it's kind of a catch-all. Like, I'm going to be able to win all these combat tricks. And then opponent plays gear and crushes me. And I'm like, well, maybe I should save this. And like, there's a point in the game. It's actually in game 3 against the Fizz player. We were actually in turns, like, and it was going to be either a draw or he was going to win. And I'm like, I'm going to be able to cause this draw right here. I've got this Hard Bargain. I've got all this stuff. And he like sends this in. I, play a combat trick. He plays another combat trick. And I'm like waiting to do this Hard Bargain. And he goes Spinning Axe. And I'm like, well played. I'll lose to that. Like I'm fine losing that.
Yeah,
and
no,
then,
I'm not.
he ended up Yeah, he ended up winning the entire event, so I was quite happy. And then I opened the prize packs during the co-stream and opened an alt art purple Ezreal. So who was the real winner?
You were the real winner. You were the real winner. Yeah, a lot of moments like that. I think during the events where your opponent will play something just like outrageous, and you're like, yeah, no, that kills me. Yeah, that'll do it. And I think my opponents had the same experience against me. Sometimes it'd be like, they played around like +2 when I had only 2 runes up because they're like, oh yeah, like Feral Spirit or whatever, right? And I just like equip a Brutalizer from hand and it's +3, and they're like, oh. Yeah. Okay.
Right.
No. Yeah.
That's a
no.
possibility.
That just wins. And it certainly had a lot of that kind of stuff happen. The one I had to play for the 3-0 though, the deck, because you brought up your opponent's deck, and it reminded me just how kind of cool the deck that I had to play against was. He was playing Azir. He had found an Azir, and he had chosen champion Yellow Renata, which. While that card is not necessarily good enough to make main deck of like Azir constructed decks, just because it's like slow and you have to draw it at the right time.
But
in
when it starts
limited,
in your hand...
from your chosen champion zone, pretty rough because he just played that out, and from there on out, every gear he got, that's just a Sand Soldier coming in ready, which was definitely a problem to deal with a lot of the time. I eventually was able to deal with it in the games that we played. I got my 2-0, but the games were incredibly close. And yeah, it was creating a lot of problems for me, especially because he had a lot of like BF swords and like really good gear. And that's where my MVP Disarming Rake, his third color was yellow or orange, by the way, and he had Punch First in this deck, and Doran's Blades, which was also crazy to add to an Azir build to have all that. But yeah, Disarming Rake. I was telling you, hey, this card was kind of an MVP, even though I looked at the card and I was like, this doesn't look that good. But in limited, so these gear destruction effects are really valuable, and Disarming Rake is one that just comes with a body. It's just 3 for 2. Mm-hmm. The power cost probably not going to kill you a lot of the time. Like it's just the one power.
Just as good as anything else.
And I had a game where I played against a Rek'Sai who had like BF sword. I kill the BF sword. And then they play another big unit and another gear, and then attach the big gear to the unit and move in and like killed a bunch of their runes. And the next turn, I'm like, Beast Below, bounce my Rake, bounce your guy. So the next turn, whenever they play it, they played like a Weapon Master, re-equipped it or whatever, and then I'm like, Rake again, kill the second big gear, second BF sword or whatever. I was like, this is so good. Oh, this Rake card is insane.
I was just about to say, the fact that it's on a unit is sometimes incredible because of the interactions. Speaking of stuff that I played against that impressed me, right? Since you guys were telling your end, one of the cards that impressed me as a limited standout, a card I was very impressed with, was Guardian of the Passage. So if you're listening and you're like, I don't know what that is, it's 6 might for 6 energy in green, but it costs no power. And when you hold, you can return a unit or a gear from trash to hand. And 6 in limited is a lot. And it only took like 1 or 2 holds usually for my opponent to make me just abandon that battlefield entirely. In one game, it was because they were getting back Overzealous Fan. So they put the Guardian and the Fan on it. And it was like, okay, well now, like I have to get the fan to trigger, and then if I somehow also don't take it on top of that, they're just going to get the fan back every time.
That's a really smart combo. That's really cool.
Yeah, and then the second game, it was with Guardian Angel, and they were using it offensively. So like they were, they had the Guardian on one side, and then I never really had enough might that I could develop to try to take that. And every time I started to, they'd slap Guardian on it. So then it's like, well, like it's just going to retake, and then I have to push it off. That one I did eventually win, but it was so annoying. And I was like, wow, this card has really impressed me with how sticky it is, and also how annoying it is with so many different interactions in limited.
Yep. In general, big guy's good was definitely a prevailing story of limited once again, which has always kind of been the case in most games limited. But I also just think in Riftbound, like it only takes a few turns for you to start dropping big guys if you're not spending too much power. So I definitely felt like having bigger units, skewing bigger was better. And actually, sometimes less 2-drops was better. I ended up playing a decent amount because I had a ton of card draw on cycle to try and get through. But I think if you don't have a lot of card draw, you might actually only want to be on 3 2s, just hope that you find one early, because missing it I don't think matters as much if your follow-up turns on your turn 2, turn 3 are just big guy. I think you're gonna be kind of you should be fine if your opponent started with a 2 and then they go from there. Yes, I mean, you can argue, but wouldn't it be better to play a 2-drop and then a big guy than a big guy? Yeah, obviously, but realistically, if you miss the 2 and then you play big guy and they play 2-drop, 2 more 2-drops, whatever, because their deck is flooded with more 2s, I think you're in better shape. I think your turn 2, your turn 3 felt a lot more important than having an early drop. Oftentimes my 2-drops were just trading or dying for free because you don't really know what you're protecting with them, and they'd be worth a point, and maybe they had a trigger on them, like a Poro, give me a gold, and they're not bad. I'm not saying don't play any 2s. If you got good 2s, you play them, but I think the ratio is probably lower than I initially anticipated you'd want for 2s. I think it's lower percentage-wise than in constructed.
Definitely. Yeah, because your gear does factor into that. And the individual games that I lost were not were because I probably had too many early drops and just opponent had really big board. I'm I can't really do much from here. I can just it didn't end up working out. So yeah, it's definitely something to think about. What this whole discussion makes me think about, and we won't go deeper into it, A, because we're running out of time, and B, because I don't have anything prepared for this at all. But this discussion is really making me excited for draft, because all of these things get even crazier when you get to construct your deck piece by piece as you're opening cards. It's Ezreal and sealed, you are at the whim of what your pool is, and the Ezreal pre-constructed deck gives you only a couple of things that target, and even fewer that target 2 things inherently. So you had to open additional things that target that are also playable and also don't cost $1 million. And then sometimes you get to draw a card once per game, basically. Whereas all these chilling touches, yep, take that one, and you can really sort of build your deck to more constructed, and sometimes even better than constructed, because also now Ezreal can play green or red or whatever. I am actually really excited about draft, because it opens up discussions that we wouldn't even have in Magic formats. It's how high are we valuing legend, or how high are we valuing legends? How high are we valuing just generic champion? Because that card can start in your hand every single game now.
Will Punch First be the most hate drafted card in the history of the world?
Yeah. All these things and more. I am definitely going to be planning on drafting as much as I can, basically. So we will see that. But let us know in the comments how you did at your pre-rift. Did you have fun? All that good stuff. Because I think that the pre-rift was I think everyone I talked to had a great experience. And while I do think I will like regular sealed without the seeded pack more than I'll like the seeded pack pre-rift format, I did very much enjoy the pre-rift format. But that is going to bring us to our favorite segment of the show. It is going to be our mailbag. And we asked last week, we wanted new names. We wanted new names for Miracle Draven, because Miracle Draven is a horrible name. So we got some in the comments. You can potentially get your comment on our mailbag by leaving a comment right here on the YouTube or the Spotify as well, which I definitely didn't check. So you just gotta spray and pray and hope that at some point we'll check the Spotify comments. Anyway, this is from Swift Duelist, who says, I hope one day people will call the Miracle Draven deck dual wield Draven, because you're using the trash as a second hand, as well as fitting thematically with Draven holding up 2 spinning axes in League. Okay. I like that better than Miracle.
Yeah, it's not a bad
pretty
start.
Low bar to pass, but I do think this does.
the challenge on this one is going to get people to know what it means implicitly, which is also the problem with Miracle, to be clear. I think Miracle does not, like, if you weren't from Hearthstone, most people, I saw so many people being like, why is it, what is Miracle having?
The number of people I had to explain that it's not Miracle from Magic.
Exactly, and it's from Hearthstone.
It has no reference to Magic at all.
So again, I agree. I like this more than Miracle. I think the idea of like, you're using the second hand with the trash, not bad. So
yeah, I do like it. There. It's like, why are you calling it dual wields? Because your second hand is your trash. That one line explains it. I'm here for it. I like it. All right, I think we got some more. Suggestions here as well. This is from AJ Andrew Steven Johnso. It says deck names for Miracle Draven: Spectacle Draven, RNG Draven, Roulette Draven, Go Big Draven, Adoration Draven, Fortune Draven. There are plenty more, I'm sure, but these are the more stream friendly ones.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because I mean, definitely the reason we asked this wasn't because we were using a non-stream before then. Absolutely not. So my only issue on this list is, I think for things like RNG and Roulette Draven, I think it's the opposite, because you're seeing so many cards. There's actually way less RNG with a deck like this. And that's also part of why I've never liked the Miracle moniker anyway, because it's like Miracle, like it's lucky, right? Like, but it's like, no, the deck does that every game. Like if you watch Randy Siver, there's a reason he's writing down every card going to the bottom of the deck, because he's going to see them. Going to see him again. But other than that, I mean, Spectacle Draven is a bit of a spectacle to watch, and Adoration being Draven's passive in League of Legends, I think there's maybe something there with Adoration. I'm just trying to find the one that hits just right, And I don't know if it's hard to get there.
I first want to say that I genuinely appreciate AJ Andrew Steven John. So I assume it's supposed to be like Johnson or something that continues on, and they just ran out of characters. But I appreciate it because they gave us a deck name for every name they have. So like they gave us one for AJ and one for Andrew and one for Steven and one for
Johnson.
So shout out. The other thing that I want to say though is that I agree with you, Cass. I think that if anything, instead of Miracle Draven, the proper moniker, and I'm not saying that it should be this, but I think calling it like deterministic Draven is more in line, because the whole point is to get to a known game state, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
But I would like to submit to the committee something that actually uses appropriate Riftbound terminology, and also I think will conjure forth how people feel about Draven as a legend in general. I would like to submit Trash Draven.
Trash Draven.
I'm kind of here for it.
Dumpster Draven.
Dumpster Draven is also fine. Anything that has to deal with like trash.
I know there was
because it's literally he wants to interact with the trash.
Yeah.
There was another one somebody had put in the comments that was like Gravedigger Draven, which is in that same vein.
There's that
same vein. Yeah.
Undertaker.
Then we're gonna get
those are but the thing is like Gravedigger, Undertaker, etc. To me, those are still Magic references, because in Magic it's a graveyard. In Riftbound, it's a trash.
It's a trash.
Trash Draven.
So I will go
Trash
with
Man Draven.
Trash Draven, Dumpster Draven, Raccoon Draven.
I think that having that package in your deck, so like Trash Civ or Trash Draven, I'm here for it. Like I think that's. I think we have.
It's closer. It's closer.
It's closer.
It's closer. I'm not fully happy, and I never will be. But
no, we can be happy with a deck name.
We're getting
it's not this one, and not yet.
We're starting to get there. We'll take more suggestions as people go, but also for this week,
also for other decks too.
Yeah. Name other decks as well. But for this week, what I really would love to see in the comments, and Blev, you mentioned it as we were leaving the segment, but I want to hear your story times. I want to, and maybe we can talk about some next week on the pod about what cool things people saw, like whether it was a legend chosen champion combo, whether it was just, a color combo that let you do something that was really special. I want to know. Yeah, I just want to know in the comments, like at your pre-rift, what this like limited format that is unique to limited and Riftbound, like created a really fun scenario for you, and we'll get to talk about some of the cool ones. So that is my homework for you at home.
Yes.
You have to do it if you watch this video.
Yes, you must leave a comment that tells us a cool thing that at least minimum one cool thing that happened at your pre-rift that has to do with limited, or else you will be deducted points. So
you'll be deducted points from your final grade.
Yes, and it will also be confirmed that we will be calling the episode Season 2, Episode 0 from now. We'll be going from this point. But on that note, that is going to be it for this episode, episode 34, officially or unofficially, and then definitely officially Season 2, Episode 0. As we move into release, I hope that you are cracking your Spiritforged packs right now at your LGS or in other places, or you've already opened your Walmart packs that they of course released early again, because why would they change? But that'll be it for this week. So for Casanova, for Trevor, for the whole Turn 'em Sideways crew, see ya.